Have you ever asked yourself, man, I wonder who the best player is standing at 5'7"?
He can't play in the NFL because he's 5'7". He can't do this because he's 5'7".
Exactly who is the best player in NFL history at each height? Well, let's jump right into it, inch by inch, from shortest to tallest. 5'5", Trenton Holliday. The 5'5" Holliday is among the shortest pro football players ever, but he was a shining example of why size doesn't always matter, because there was practically no stopping him when he had the ball in open space. Holliday only played in the NFL from 2010 to 2014, but during that time frame, he was a prolific punt and kick returner. In his 2 years with the Denver Broncos, Holliday had 2 punt return scores and a pair of kick return touchdowns. He also had a punt return score and a kick return touchdown during the team's infamous Mile High Miracle loss to the Baltimore Ravens. 5'6", Darren Sproles. Sproles was a dynamic do-it-all weapon wherever he went. He could rip off big runs from the backfield, he was scary good in the special teams return game. Operating like a slippery snake all over the field, Sproles also recorded 4,840 receiving yards for his career. In 2011, Sproles posted 2,696 all-purpose yards for the New Orleans Saints, a single-season record. The 3-time Pro Bowler completed his resume by winning a Super Bowl 52 ring with the Philadelphia Eagles. 5'7", Maurice JonesDrew. You kids may recognize MJD from his work as an analyst on the NFL Network and NFL.com, but back in the day, JonesDrew was among the NFL's most explosive running backs. MJD played 9 years in the NFL from 2006 to 2014. JonesDrew was a 3-time Pro Bowler who led the NFL in rushing during the 2011 season with 1,606 yards. Nicknamed Pocket Hercules, JonesDrew finished with 8,167 rushing yards and 68 touchdowns for his career. 5'8", Barry Sanders. Some folks out there will happily make the case that Sanders is the best running back to ever live. Let's just say his case would be a lot stronger if he didn't retire so early. Sanders was the NFL's ultimate highlight reel machine throughout his career, which spanned from 1989 to 98. The Detroit Lions icon is only 5'8", and he weighed in at roughly 200 pounds for most of his career. He was a one-man wrecking crew who always found crafty ways to escape trouble. Sanders could outrun practically anyone on the field, but it was his spin moves and jukes that often left defenders with broken ankles. The 1997 co-MVP is 4th all-time in rushing yards with 15,269. Had he played another 2 or 3 seasons, however, there's a very good chance that he would have topped that list rather easily. 5'9", Emmitt Smith. Sorry if you're getting bored of all the running backs on this list, but I mean, who else could we have put in this spot? Thanks to Sanders' early retirement, it's actually Smith who's the NFL's all-time leader in rushing yards with 18,355. And he's also the leader in rushing touchdowns with 164. Smith was the focal point of the Dallas Cowboys offense throughout the 90s, during which he helped the team to 3 Super Bowl championships over a 4-year span from 1992 to 95. The 1993 league MVP led the NFL in rushing 4 times and in rushing touchdowns 3 times. 5'10", Walter Payton. Okay, we swear this is the last running back on our list. We promise. Sweetness spent his entire career with the Chicago Bears from 1975 to 87. There were a ton of great running backs dominating the league in this era, but nobody stood out as much as Payton. The 9-time Pro Bowler carried Chicago's offense for over a decade, racking up over 1,200 rushing yards in 10 of his 13 seasons. Payton won NFL MVP, Man of the Year, and Offensive Player of the Year honors all in 1977. His near perfect career became, well, perfect when he won a Super Bowl 20 ring with the legendary 1985 Bears squad. By the time he had hung up his cleats in 1987, he was far and away the NFL's all-time leading rusher with 16,726 yards. And after all these years, Payton still sits second on that list, behind only the aforementioned Emmitt Smith. 5'11", Ed Reed. Bill Belichick is the best coach of all time, and seemingly no player terrified him more than Ed Reed.
Turns in wheels, turns his back on a quarterback, and beats way into the ball. Best play I've ever seen a free safety make.
Reed was as close as perfect as it could get for a defensive player. He had Deion Sanders-like coverage skills, Paul Krause's-like ball-hawking abilities, and Tyreek Hill-like speed with the ball in his hands. The Baltimore Ravens icon racked up 64 picks throughout his career, tied for 7th most all-time. The 2004 Defensive Player of the Year posted an insane 1,590 INT return yards for his career, which is the most all-time. A 9-time Pro Bowler, Ed Reed finally completed his resume when his Ravens won Super Bowl 47 in what turned out to be his very last game with the franchise. 6 feet. Ronnie Lott. Joe Montana and Jerry Rice were always the talk of town, but the San Francisco 49ers wouldn't have won Super Bowls without the GOAT of all safeties. 6 feet isn't exactly big for a defensive back, but Lott weighed 203 pounds and used every ounce of his frame to crush opposing players in the open field. He was the mainstay on the 49ers defense that simply made life a lot easier for Montana and company. The 10-time Pro Bowler and 8-time first-team All-Pro was named to both the 1980s and 1990s NFL All-Decade teams. He finished with 63 interceptions for his career, and did we mention the dude won 4 Super Bowls? 6'1", Aaron Donald. We had such a difficult time choosing between Donald, Johnny Unitas, Deion Sanders, and Ray Lewis. Donald, however, is making a case for himself as the greatest defensive player ever, period. He's always getting after the quarterback, he's always blowing up running plays in the backfield, and he is always breaking through double and even triple teams like it is nothing. He won Defensive Player of the Year awards in 2017, 2018, and 2020, and to be honest, we feel like he actually could have won more. Who knows? Maybe the voters just want to be nice and give it to someone else every once in a while. Donald was arguably the most dominant player on the field in the Los Angeles Rams Super Bowl 56 victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. That Super Bowl ring finally completed Donald's career, making him a worthy choice as the greatest 6'1" player in NFL history. 6'2", Jerry Rice. Joe Montana, Aaron Rodgers, and Jim Brown are worthy of honorable mentions in this spot, but truth be told, this wasn't really a tough choice for us. Jerry Rice is the second best player of all time, only behind Tom Brady, though you could also argue that Rice is the true football GOAT. By a comfortable margin, Rice is the all-time leader in every major receiving category. Renowned for his crazy work ethic and never taking a day off, even in the off-season, Rice single-handedly revolutionized the receiver position. Oh, and those 3 shiny Super Bowl rings don't hurt his legacy one bit. 6'3", Lawrence Taylor. Taylor and Reggie White are the only 2 guys Aaron Donald is chasing now for the title as the greatest defensive player of all time. But as of right now, we would have to give the slight edge to LT. Taylor was the nucleus of a hard-hitting and punishing New York Giants defense that carried the team to Super Bowl championships in the 1986 and 1990 seasons. He racked up 142 sacks in just 184 career games, and he is the last defensive player to have won MVP honors. That was way back when in 1986. And by the way, even Bill Belichick doesn't want you comparing any modern players to LT.
There's nobody that really I could put in his category.
6'4", Tom Brady. Apologies to literally all other 6'4" players, but you never even stood a chance. Not against the GOAT. Whichever height he was listed at, Brady was gonna take that top spot. The most Super Bowl rings and the holder of every significant passing category will do that for ya. 6'5", Peyton Manning. Such a tough call between Reggie White and Peyton Manning, but it was too hard to go against the man who holds an NFL record 5 MVP awards along with 2 Super Bowl rings. Manning retired as the all-time passing yards and passing touchdowns leader, and he also holds the record for most passing touchdowns in a single season with a whopping 55 in 2013. He and Brady are the only QBs who have won a Super Bowl ring as the starting QB for 2 different franchises. That's some pretty exclusive company right there. He doesn't have the most rings, but there's a case to be made that Manning is the most dominant and efficient QB to ever live. Nobody read defenses or called plays at the line like the man they call the Sheriff. 6'6", Anthony Munoz. Munoz is by far the greatest offensive lineman to ever live. Now, O-linemen almost never get enough credit in general, but this was especially the case for them in the days before the internet and social media. Now that we have access to all those tapes, we highly recommend you see the highlights of Munoz's many pancake blocks. He absolutely dominated his fellow big men in the trenches, racking up 9 first-team All-Pros and 11 Pro Bowl selections in the process. He was instrumental in helping the Bengals reach 2 Super Bowls in the 80s, both heartbreaking losses to the Dynasty 49ers. 6'7", Ted Hendricks. The menacing linebacker was a centerpiece of 2 different franchises during their glory years. Hendricks won his first Super Bowl ring with the Baltimore Colts in the 1970 season, but the Hall of Famer was just getting started. Hendricks spent the bulk of his career with the Raiders from 1975 to 83. The 8-time Pro Bowler would win 3 more rings during his tenure with the Black and Silver. Hendricks was named to both the 1970s and 1980s NFL All-Decade teams, which just goes to show how dominant he was over such a long span. 6'8", Harold Carmichael. It's simply unfair how gifted Carmichael was as a wide receiver for a guy with a 6'8", 225-pound frame. Men of that stature are supposed to be an NBA player or defensive lineman. Carmichael spent 13 of his 14 seasons with the Eagles, and the other was with Dallas. He eclipsed the 500-yard receiving mark in 11 of his 14 seasons. Keep in mind, the NFL wasn't the pass-happy league that it is today during Carmichael's days. The proud Gold Jacket owner earned 4 Pro Bowl nods and is the Eagles' all-time leader in receptions, receiving yards, and TD catches. Those are some big-time accomplishments for such a big man. 6'9", Jonathan Ogden. You can certainly argue that Ogden is on the Mount Rushmore of NFL offensive tackles. The 6'9", 345-pound beast perfectly fit the Ravens' fierce, nasty, in-your-face identity during the Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs era. While Baltimore's lights-out defense was busy pummeling opposing offenses, Ogden was striking his fair share of fear into the hearts of daring pass rushers. The 11-time Pro Bowler was a mainstay on the Ravens' surprise Super Bowl 35 championship season, blocking for 1,000-yard rushers like Jamal Lewis, Willis McGahee, and Priest Holmes. 6'10", Maurice Stoud. As the only 6'10" player in NFL history, Stoud doesn't have any challengers for this spot, but he was actually very good at his job anyway. The 255-pound tight end was a key cog of the Kansas City Chiefs squad that emerged as a powerhouse in the early days of the Super Bowl era. Stoud played 6 seasons, all with Kansas City, from 1969 to 74. He won an AFL championship with the Chiefs in his rookie year, as well as a Super Bowl IV championship over the heavily favored Minnesota Vikings. 6'11", Matt O'Donnell. O'Donnell never actually played an NFL game, but we'll make an exception for him anyway. From what we know, he's the only 6'11" player in NFL history. O'Donnell was on the Bengals practice and off-season squads in 2011, 2012, and 2015. Though he never played in the regular season, O'Donnell enjoyed a stellar career in the CFL. A 2-time West All-Star, he won a Grey Cup with Edmonton in the 2015 season. 7 feet, Richard Sly, the tallest player in NFL history, and thus the only guy eligible for this list. Sly played 1 season for the Oakland Raiders in 1967. A towering 300-pound defensive tackle, Sly didn't see much playing time, but earned an AFL championship ring with that star-studded Raiders team. Not bad at all for the 7-footer. But which specific height do you think has produced the best group of NFL players of all time? Join us in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.